Alright, and YouTube seems set.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, sure, I turned my mic off for a hot moment. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Dissects. After we've been on a freaking 3-week hiatus from this, we're finally back and better than ever now because we got the amazing. Oh gosh, wait, I'm gonna butcher it. Is it? I'm sorry, I should have asked you this before. Is it Purpleschala or Purpleschala? I'm so sorry.
I know there's like a big, it's a point of controversy amongst the Chrono Trigger community as to how it's really pronounced. So any pronunciation is acceptable at this point.
All right, we got Purpleschala on board for this DS Dissects, and I'm super honored to have her on board. How are you doing? How are you feeling about this Final Fantasy XIII analysis?
Oh, I'm so excited. Like, I see Danny in the chat.
Yo, it's music on the D-Lo. Yeah, let's go.
Yes. And he was the one where I was totally, like, picking his brains just the other night. Like okay, is this... And then, you know... So, yeah, we got into a discussion.
Oh, you actually talked with Danny a bit about it?
Yes! I was like, okay, here's my Shinkarian analysis. Here's my whole thing. And then he was like, no, minor mixolydian doesn't exist. I'm sorry. And I was like,
minor mixolydian?
Oh my gosh, I have this huge setup. So yeah, it'll be interesting. but he was really great. He was really great, and like bouncing ideas off of him as to hanging, like, you know, the harmonic shifts, the modal interchanges in Hanging Edge, and so like I reworked my whole analysis thanks to him.
So as y'all can see, and as all y'all in chat can see, we are very serious about Final Fantasy XIII music in here. This is gonna be one crazy hacking time. So
Yes. Oh yeah, Stefan, no, there's no. We threw Shankar out the window. Shankar is out the window. No. That was how I started out, and I'm like, no, this is just not.
Yo, is that Ramon in the chat? Let's go.
Oh, Ramon! Yes, Ramon is here. No Shankar. We're not gonna talk about Shankar here.
Oh, you're gonna have to tell me what the heck that is after this, because I'm just sitting here like.
That's why I had to hit up Danny. I was like, I need to talk to a jazz guy. This is not conventional analysis is not going to work. so yeah.
All right.
Okay, but Dave, I just want to say, like, this tremendous job on this arrangement, because it was just so funny on Twitter when you were like, oh, I don't have time to do this competition, but I hope someone does an arrangement of Hanging Edge.
Yeah, I sure hope someone does it. I wonder who it happened to be. Happened to me at like 11 at night, the night before, being like, help, I gotta get this done. So yeah, so for context for the arrangement that we're going to be analyzing today, I'm awful at Windows. Yeah, so we're looking at the Hanging Edge from Final Fantasy XIII, which is originally I recorded for this Game Groups remix contest, where Game Groups is like, all right, you have 2 weeks, make a Final Fantasy piano cover, because they're neat. And you put it out the entire community. I'm like, oh yeah, that's up my alley. I've done that before, even if like a minority of my audience likes it, I'll just do it anyway, because that's what I want to do. And so I decided to pick an interesting piece, because it's not actually in the piano collections for Final Fantasy XIII. I wanted to try doing something on my own, see how much of that like sort of style I can get in the arrangement. And gosh, there's a lot of people in chat. Help. Help.
Hey, David. And Ramon, and yes. Oh, yes, I agree, Danny. Yes, no. Yes, you don't need to know about Shankar. So.
Also, shout out to it's your boy Joey on Twitch chat. How's it going? Looks like Twitch and YouTube are both running fine. So I guess we might as well just jump into it. So like, I guess the first question, like, why pick Final Fantasy XIII as the track to cover for the Final Fantasy piano contest? Why not do something more iconic by like a guy people actually know, like Nobuo Uematsu or something like that? And personally, I just feel it's just Hamauzu just hits different. He's a composer that just like, the first time I heard him, I was like, I think the first time I heard his music was just like, I was at like freshman year on my co-op freshman year. I was just listening to all the piano collections, and I heard the 13 piano collections, like, wait a minute, what is this? I like this sound. And so it turns out I never even played like any of the Final Fantasy games before that, and like, so I listened to like the actual 13 OST. I'm like, man, this stuff is good. I like it a lot, and I liked it so much that actually Danny in YouTube chat would know I actually did I analyzed a little bit of it for our 2019 MagFest panel, which funny enough,
cool.
I still hadn't played the game at that point, so I was doing this analysis on why Final Fantasy XIII music was so good before I'd even played the freaking game, just because the music
You're
was...
a true fan.
Because it's just that good, but actually, funny enough, around like... what was it? Around like holiday time, I finally actually bought the game, and I made myself play it despite the haters. And man, does the music just work so well. And it's just like, personally, I feel like Hamauzu, like even in this soundtrack and in like other like pieces he's done, there's two sounds that particularly get me. One of them is like, he makes these super rich, lush, atmospheric textures where you just feel like every single little like if you imagine like a sonic palette as like a puzzle, he like fills in every single little piece of the puzzle with like every single possible note and harmony and instrument that he can. He just makes them mesh so well. It's like this very colorful puzzle, very colorful like piece of artwork that just like meshes so much together, makes it feel like a Van Gogh painting or something. And that's one of the styles I like, either like the big artistic ones, or there's pieces like Hanging Edge where it's not that it sounds wrong, it's just that there's something about it that's off-putting. There's something that seems like it shouldn't be there, but it makes the piece sound better, if you know what I mean. It's just that little clash of like things that shouldn't on paper they shouldn't work, but he puts them together and makes it work.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because the fact that it's so polytonal it reminds me a little of Hindemith, like where it's like all the right notes in all the wrong places.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like, and as you like, I think when in the context of the game, it just works so well because it's the first area where you have control of lightning and saws, and you're running from, you've just busted out of the pulse train, and there's that sense of urgency and that cacophony, that dissonance, where it's like you as the player, you don't know what's going on. You're just thrown into this. It's like the beginning of Final Fantasy VII, where you're just like given control right off the bat. And, you're still trying to figure everything out, and so it just, that confusion, is so fitting.
It's technically it's the second place we get control, because the first place you get control is that boss battle against the war mech, which has like 50 HP tops. It's kind of funny going back and seeing the stats for it after you're like,
that's right.
After you're like further into the game. It's like, wow, the fully upgraded war mech had like 50 HP, but when it's damaged like 3 chapters later, it has like 500 HP. What is this? How does this make sense? But yeah, like it's the context behind the song. It's the can I get a pic? Let me see if I can get a picture without my stream lagging a bunch. So it's the first chapter of the game where you get to play as titular Lightning, and Saz, who's everyone's favorite baby chocobo companion, and you're basically in this really like sci-fi mech Final Fantasy VII-esque like battle station sort of place. To be fair, I'm not even quite sure what the heck it is. It's just neat and sci-fi looking. And this is where like people start to have complaints about 13, because it's a level that like it throws you into a long set of hallways with very repetitive enemy encounters, and there's like not much to do. Like literally the first time I played, I was trying to explore, but my friend who I was playing it with was like, David, it's literally a line, just go straight, keep going.
Yeah, that's another discussion for another time. But like, I'm sure like there's the controversy surrounding the whole corridor-esque gameplay. But that's one that was in remake as well. So that's another discussion.
That's actually one of the points I want to bring up later in the analysis, is how like this music sort of like, as you can see in the YouTube thumbnail, how this music is also sort of self-aware, how it gives the feeling like these characters being thrust into a situation where they have no choice but to just keep going and fight all the battles that they have to keep going with along the way. And it feels some parts of it do feel very linear in a way, so we'll touch upon that later. But we should probably actually get into the actual song before we just go off forever about it. So let's actually hear how it sounds like, just a quick little taste of it. Oh wait, I need to invite you to a YouTube thing. Shoot, right, I was gonna do this before the stream, so I need to invite you to a thing so we can watch the video together. Shoot. Hold up. Do-do-do. Gosh, I'm sorry I didn't do this earlier, gosh.
No, it's fine. I'm just
I
reading the chat. Linear hallways, linear house. The chat is killing me.
You love to see it.
I'm like...
Alright. There we go.
No, it's... Oh, you got it? Okay.
I think I got it. Let me invite you to the room. So it's like a website where you can basically like watch things together with other people. Let's see, let me know if you can access this real quick.
Okay, is this on Discord or?
Yeah, I sent you a link on Discord.
Yes, I see it. Okay, this is, wow, okay, this is new for me too. Oh. Okay, I got it.
Alright, you in?
I'm in, yes.
Cool. Okay, let me just move this over here. Sorry, pardon the technical difficulties.
By the way, thanks for the, I really appreciate you giving me the score beforehand so I could make notations on it, because there were so many interesting things in the score that looking at it, like how it, but it's, you know, it's interesting when you mentioned that it was that Hamauzu's music reminds you of Van Gogh, or like a Van Gogh painting, like that impressionist sort of, you know, because that's very much.
Did I butcher his name?
So characteristic of impressionists, the impressionist culture. It's like there's the overall structure is sort of, it's actually like there's not much harmonic movements in Hanging Edge, but just there's so many little things that he does on a minuscule level that make it so interesting.
Alright, let me play the original track real quick, which you won't be able to hear this because this is a different video, but I'm just playing the OG track. So here it starts out with some nice ominous violins, got the piano banging along, piano bias showing through. Plus this really like mechanical sort of like clicking rhythm in the background. It's got this very sort of off-putting atmosphere. Then like this military drum beat comes in, you got some low strings, playing this really wonky line, which we'll talk about a bit later.
Oh, I'm all about that wonky line, as Danny knows. We talked about that wonky line for a while. Like the other night.
And then this huge freaking Hans Zimmer Baum synth comes in the background, and everything just starts going crazy. Let's play a couple extra little bits, including this. This is pretty interesting. Got some strings. It's nice. And then this section with this little sparkly synth in the background. It's pretty nice. We'll talk about more of that in a bit. But yeah, as you can get from like a cursory listen to the piece, it's very dense. As 88-bit says, it's music for 18 musicians. It's very dense. It's got lots of interesting synth textures. It's got lots of things that you like. It sort of sounds off, but it also sounds right, and we'll get to why it sounds off in a bit. So let's start watching the video, and right off the bat. Okay, is the video going for you?
Okay, let's see. Oh yes, now it is. Okay, you know, I just love how piano arrangements just bring so many of those hidden, like, background instrumental tracks to the fore, where you really can hear the, like, how, like, how that harmony, like that. It's a G minor 11 over D, like.
Oh yeah.
So it's a, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, keep going. I was just gonna mention
Okay, yeah.
something real quick
So
after
I'm
you're done.
just gonna nerd out over these harmonies for a second. So it starts out in a G minor 11 over D.
Yeah,
and,
the first chord.
11, like, and Hamauzu just loves 11th chords so much. Like he just loves 11ths and 13ths because it outlines a minor 7th. And it, like the 13th and the 11th have these dominant functions. And so that off the bat it's already very like ambiguous, like just harmonically. And I remember like Danny asking me, oh, "What key is this in?" And I was like, "I don't know."
Yes, it is. It's an.
I don't even know.
Actually, funny enough, when I was first transcribing this, which let me pull up the score real quick. When I was first transcribing this, I put up a tweet. I was like, "Help! How many notes are in this chord? This like left-hand chord? I thought there was like."
Yes.
I thought that was every note from D to B flat, like D, E natural, F, G, A natural, B. I thought it was literally a, what mode is it? Let me pull up my handy dandy mode chart.
No, I got the modes. I got the mode.
Mixolydian. For a second, I thought it was an entire C Mixolydian chord and just being playing in the background.
C Mixolydian. Take that, Danny. No, I'm kidding. Danny actually corrected me on that.
But yeah, I decided to just.
It's a Mixolydian.
Yeah, I decided to just take these notes that made up the G minor 7th chord just because, like, those are the I literally went frequency by frequency to see which ones were, like, loudest, and, like, I felt like these ones were the most prominent, especially, like, the B flat and the D. Because the B flat, especially the B flat, F, and D, they outline the B flat chord in a C major scale, which really highlights the Mixolydian scale. So it's like, let's just keep it simple.
I'm really glad you brought that up because you'll see throughout the entire Hanging Edge, he plays around with the C tonality in so many different ways. Like like later on, he will bring in the bass a C Phrygian scale. Thank you, Danny, and then pair that with that C Mixolydian like scale that's going on in the right hand. So you'll have that clash of D flats and B flats with B naturals and D naturals, and that's what that dissonance is what gives it that sort of like very unsettling feeling.
Yeah.
And all over that G minor 11th sonority is really cool because then that fact that he like throughout the whole piece it just shifts from G minor 11th to like A flat minor 11th. So the entire thing is just those two
A flat minor squad.
Yeah, it just keeps going. There's just like there's a half step back and shift back and forth, and that just doesn't change. That's what I mean by it's like interesting. Like in Hamauzu, it's like there's not much harmonic movement, but just so much going on within that framework.
Yeah,
that makes it so interesting to listen to.
Which actually, even within that framework, sometimes he like breaks his own rules a little bit. Because I thought it was interesting how literally in the first measure you have the right hand playing a B natural on top of the left hand playing a B flat.
Yes, I like that B natural really threw me off.
It's just a little neighboring. It's a little neighboring tone. Just like might as well throw that in there. It's whimsical.
Well, if you think about it, it does function. You could think of it as raising the leading tone. That that highlights the C. That it hints at the C tone, the importance of the C tonality. Like you could look at it that way. Then maybe looking into it too much. But that's kind of how I read it.
Yeah. So I'll just go back to the beginning. Mention all these things. You have the. Which actually, for the most part, in this like beginning section, it's pretty straightforward. You just have you just have chords and a melody. It's mostly in C Mixolydian, and then in the next section, it goes to D flat Mixolydian.
Yes.
And it just basically does that for like this beginning part.
Right, yeah, that half step shift, which Danny pointed out, like, because I was asking Danny, is that a jazz thing? Because that half step thing, and he's like, yeah, it's in modal jazz, it's very common. Like, and he pointed out, like, in Kind of Blue, So What from Miles Davis.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, that's right.
So what? What? Oh, I remember learning that song back in like 5th grade band class, because our teacher was just like, oh yeah, it's just like 2 chords. You have just learn like what is it, C and D flat, no big deal, and you can solo over that.
Kudos to your band teacher introducing Miles Davis to middle schoolers.
He was a freaking he's a freaking connoisseur. He was great. Anyway, so then we have all that. That's nice and neat, and then we get to this part where the left hand comes in with the cello part.
Yes. Yes, the C. That's the C Phrygian chord. That's when I talk those dissonances with D and D and E. Yeah, I love that. It's just so. That's when it really sounds so polytonal there.
Yeah. So, just a quick recap for any of y'all that maybe knew the sort of this. So the scale it's playing in the right hand is a C mixolydian, which is basically the same as a C major scale, but with the B instead is a B flat. So it's a mode, yes. And then in the left hand was playing is C, D flat, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, which is C Phrygian. So you got this clash of modes where you have like A naturals on top of A flats, and then like D's on top of D flats, and like it's supposed to sound wrong because you got all these like half steps that are like clashing with each other. And I feel like that's one of the ways that, like, I think you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I think it's one of the ways how Hamauzu, did I pronounce it right this time? I keep saying Hamauzu and I'm like, oh, gosh, I feel bad if I'm butchering that. But it's one of the ways I feel like he sort of illustrates this ideal of you have these two very different characters. You have Lightning and you have Saz, and they're two very different people who are both just shoved together due to circumstance and they have to get through this situation together. So you have the two different modes representing each character. You have Lightning, who I feel like Lightning would be the C mixolydian because like the because even though she's not really the bounciest character, she's still sort of serious, but like she's the one who wants to like defy fate more. So she has like this very like bouncy sort of line that's like going up and down, and it's, I guess it's more playful, even though she's not really a playful character, but she swings a big sword. She's cool. And
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
And then I feel like Saz would be more of the C Phrygian, right? Phrygian, yes. Yeah. Scale, because it's more straightforward. Emo just wants to get it over with. He just wants to go with the flow. He doesn't really want to cause that much. At least in the beginning, he doesn't want to cause that much trouble. So he's just moving along in like very concise patterns, like going up the scale, then going up by thirds. Dum bum 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 bum.
That's so interesting. I never thought about like characterizing each of the scales as like Lightning and Saz. Like and like as you were.
I mean, it's not perfect. It's not perfect by any means.
No, it's actually cool. That's actually a really cool way to think about it, because I would, like, for me, I would think it would be the opposite, because Phrygian to me is the one that sounds like feels to me more like Lightning, and the upper one like Saz, like as you said, just for the fact that, you know, he doesn't want to do anything risky. He just wants to just kind of like, you know, he's
bounce
going along and
out.
doesn't know why. But she's the one that's like causing the dissonance. Because,
oh yeah, right. Oh, you're right. Yeah, because
that's me. Now that could be me, but I see what you're saying too.
Oh gosh, now I want to rethink everything. But yeah, but I guess the key point here is that you can see how like the two different like modes sort of like tie into this the two very different characters, different fates meshing together. And then let's see, let's keep going, because we got that point down, and that's why I wanted to like highlight those two lines in particular, even though there's like some snare drum lines, there's some other wonky percussion, and I just wanted to highlight like those two lines within this section of the arrangement. Oh, this part was fun. This note right here
about D flat.
Oh, the D natural, actually. Wait, is it D natural? Wait, no, it's a D flat. You're right. It is a D flat.
Yeah.
The D flat right there, because you have to like I had to like cross my fingers while like holding the horn D flat with like the the right thumb, and then the right pinky and other fingers had to like wiggle around it while playing the medley. I just thought that D flat was kind of neat, so like might as well throw it in there.
That's really, it's cool because it foreshadows the chord, that shift, that harmonic shift to come in when it goes to A flat minor 11.
Yeah, plus the D flat is like very characteristically part of C Phrygian, because Phrygian has a D flat, whereas Mixolydian has the D natural. So the D flat adds extra tension within that, so it doesn't just get super repetitive. I thought it was neat to throw it in. Oh wait, oops, we got here already? Oops.
no, that's a great moment.
All right, this section. This is when the synths
really cool.
come in. This is when everything goes hectic and crazy, and so at least in this part in the original track, at least looking at the sheet music, this is when like the cello line starts going into double time and playing like the same exact thing it was before, but just like faster and more frantic. At first, I wanted to add that in the arrangement. I was like, I don't have time to learn how to play this scale that fast. So I was just like, you know what? Instead of doing that, how about we like highlight the two modes that we've been highlighting? So the left hand right now is playing.
I just love that C and the bass. It just really grounds like the fact that it just really feels like you come home to C. Like,
yes, the boom C and the bass. So basically, in this section, we have the right hand is playing the same melody as before, whereas the left hand is playing this rhythm, the ba-dum, 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 which is supposed to mimic the I think it's like the snare drum line, which at this part is going just 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 5 and the ba-dum. So I wanted to emulate that with the rhythm of the left hand, while the left hand's also playing a B flat major 7 chord there, which is basically also caters to the C Mixolydian mode, since it has the B flat, which is characteristic of Mixolydian. And then after the left hand plays that B flat major 7, and then goes to
B flat major 7. Oh, wait, that's not in your score. Wait, hold on.
Oh yeah, that's because the score has the orchestral version, whereas it's not the actual piano version. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, no, it's cool. I was like, I don't remember that. okay, fine. When I called it, I was wrong when I called it a C. It's not a C. Okay, so it's a B flat major 7. Okay.
So yeah, you have the left hand going from the C Mixolydian, now playing the D flat major 7 chord, which is more characteristic of C Phrygian. So I wanted to have like those two chords like highlighted in this section to bring more like texture, bring more melodic context to the lines. Plus, because it still has like the nice sort of clash of ideals and clash of modes going on.
Yeah,
also, I don't know.
It's like, it totally works. It's like when there's so much of that dissonance, it's dissonant for so long and kind of ambiguous for so long. It's nice to finally have some kind of grounding that you've done in the left hand.
Mm-hmm. Also, for anyone that, I don't know how many people caught it, I don't know how obvious this was, but I put a little Easter egg to that is the promise, which is the main theme of Final Fantasy XIII. Yay!
Oh my gosh!
Because why not throw that in there somewhere?
Oh, that's
also, 88-bit music makes a very good point that the C also feels like a dominant, which, funny enough, later in the piece resolves not on the C, but it resolves on F. At least, the way I felt like it resolved to F, which, C is the dominant of F, so that actually ties in well later, which we'll get into. I don't know how, but somehow.
Oh, is the piece in F major then?
Maybe. Oh, that little bit right there in the left hand, is word for word or note for note from the fast scales. I was like, you know what? If I can't play the entire fast scale, might as well just throw in something. So I just threw the which is the cello line. Plus, it sort of like transitions well to the next line because
I was gonna say that's a very cool lead-in.
Because the cello line there, since it's in the C Phrygian, which is a characteristically D flat-ish, so by having that like D flat line, it sort of helps to lead the audience into the next transition from C into D flat, and then you have the same sort of and the same thing happening here where cool. There's in the left hand is playing a B flat major 7 over D flat, which is Mixolydian, and then it goes to D major 7, or technically E double flat major 7 over D flat, which is Phrygian, but we don't talk about E double flat.
We don't talk about double flat.
Then this section is just neat.
Yeah, that.
All right, this
D
section.
minor. So that's like the first time it's like solidly D minor 7, and
Yeah.
that's like the that to me feels like the climax of the whole thing. I love how you built up to that, like where it was, you know, like it's just finally like there's not like the dissonances are at a minimum, and it just finally feels very tonal at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
And, like, and that's just, and it's just, yeah.
Yeah, this is D major 7, which also sort of leads into that, like, the thing 80-bit was mentioning earlier, how about this piece feels like the C feels like a dominant, feels like it should be leading to like F or something, which, you know, D minor is the relative minor of F, so it starts having that sort of like foreshadowing there, which and it starts like leading up C, D flat, D, E flat, and then you have this section in F minor.
Yeah, love that. You know what's interesting about what I love about what it gives Hamauzu that really cool, distinctive sound is that he just loves natural minor so much. He doesn't raise the leading tones at all. You know, have you noticed that? It's just he loves just using natural minor. Like that's D natural minor, then F natural minor. There's no raising it.
There's none of
that's what makes it that modal quality to music.
There's none of those wonky freaking E naturals or B naturals. Nah, it's pure F minor.
Pure minor.
Let's see. So
so beautiful.
This section in the original piece is actually interesting because like this background line, the scale it's playing the entire time is like a synthesizer, and I thought it'd be important to add that synthesizer because it kind of adds like the shimmering texture behind this section, which keeps it driving it forward. The problem with it was that makes this section like a three-handed freaking piano part because you have the left hand playing the bum, 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 which the trombones and cellos are playing. Then you have the strings in the right hand, do 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 do, and then you have that scale going on the entire time. So I end up having to do a little bit of like hand coordination where scales like transition from one hand to another.
Yeah, you did a great job with that. Covering all those important bits. That's so difficult in a piano arrangement, especially this one.
Actually, also what's interesting is that like this chord at the end right here, I don't know if I play every single note in it, but there literally is a C major chord on top of F minor 7. So you have like so you have like C, E natural, and G on top of like E flat and F, and it's like this weird unholy amalgamation of like what a dominant should, of what a fifth, what's it called? What's a fifth 5 chord called?
A dominant.
That is a dominant. Yes, I'm sorry. I had a brain fart. It's this weird unholy amalgamation because like you feel like, oh, if you want to have a dominant, we want it to have to be like C major or C dominant 7, but here you take that. You never really get rid of that F minor. You just slap the C major on top of it and just like have that interesting clash of tonalities.
Well, I don't know if Danny would agree with this, but you could argue that the entire piece is just operates on a C pedal point. If you really wanted, maybe I might be stretching it, but their C just happens to come back so often, and you just can't get away from it. He just plays around with it so much, and the whole thing could maybe just be C like the entire time.
Even though there's the thing I was mentioning, how I feel like this section right here, how I ended on an F pedal tone, just because for some reason I felt like this section just like started leading toward F because you have like the dominant like C major, which like wants to lead back to F, and so I'll get to that again more at the end of the piece real quick.
Yeah. Oh, that was a really nice loop back.
Yeah, that's like, how can we get from F minor major 7 back to C Mixolydian? Might as well just hit the C a bunch of times and hope it works.
Yeah, no, it totally works. I mean, the fact that C is the dominant of F and that it occurs so much in this, like...
Okay, this
Violin solo.
Violin solo. Okay, let's talk
That
about
was
the
awesome.
violin solo. Actually, funny enough, I had no clue what to say about the violin solo until about like half an hour ago when I was coming home from work. I was like, wait, maybe I can come up with something on this fly. But so yeah, we have this violin solo. It's actually, let me play the violin solo again for the chat to hear, because we kind of just chatted over it. Oops. So violin solo. So anyways, that was a violin solo.
Nice. No, that was awesome. I'm like, when I heard that the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, I should put that in. That's amazing.
Yeah,
I think
it just felt
it's really
like
cool because it suggests G minor, because we actually have a raised leading tone in there. There's an F sharp. There are F sharps all over it. Like,
yeah.
So he actually, like, you know, gives us the melodic minor for the first time.
I felt like I had to include it just because, like, the violin solo is just, like, such a visceral part of this track. It's like, you have all these, like, mechanical sounding instruments and, like, very repetitive rhythms and whatnot, and then suddenly you have, like, this very rubato, very generous violin solo, which sounds very just visceral, and I was like, you know, that seems like it wants to stick out. Let's throw it in. So I transcribed it, and the beginning starts off like... The beginning starts off pretty, like, pretty standard. It's in Phrygian, not Phrygian, gosh dang it, Mixolydian. I'm gonna Mixolydian myself up with all these freaking modes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's almost fiddle-like. That's a good way to put it. That's what I was looking for. It's like fiddle-like, because there's like lots of pitch bend, lots of vibrato.
Actually, Ramon brings up a really good point that I wonder if the solo was improvised by Kawano, and that's actually, it does feel like that, you know, because it just starts out on this, it feels so free metrically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very free metrically, like you got, like you just play them whenever they want, and wait, is that the violin player's name is Kawano? Did I go the entire time listening to all these great soundtracks, being like, man, the violin in Final Fantasy XIII is so good, to not know the actual violin player's name? Gosh, I am unholy. I am excommunicated. Then, so at first it starts in like C Mixolydian, right? That's great and all. But then when it goes to the D flat, when the key changes from C, or when the bass tonality changes from C Mixolydian to D flat Mixolydian, the violin solo just decides to like sort of do its own thing. Like, it's not playing any of the other notes in the chord. For some reason, I want to say it's playing in E minor.
Yeah, that's why I think I think I agree with Ramon in that. I think it was very improvised, that he was just, that Hamauzu was just like, okay, just do whatever.
Yeah, just do whatever. Which actually
we'll take the best take out of this.
Yeah, which actually matches the point I was gonna think about, or I was gonna mention a lot better, because so violin, at least in the Final Fantasy XIII soundtrack, is very reminiscent of, like, you know, the battle tracks, the Lightning's theme, a lot of the more like humanistic like tracks in a lot more of the human tracks in the soundtrack have like the solo violin, which gives it this very intimate, personable, like intimate persona, which I feel like that helps to sell that sort of, like, you have these even though they're being thrust into the situation, you have these humans, you have Saz and Lightning, and they're free spirits and they're trying to fight against the system, and so you have a very raw and visceral, like, free and improvised solo to mimic these free spirits who are just trying to defy, like, even in the context of this really modally wonky piece, they're still defying like every sort of like expectation of the piece and being like, we're gonna play whatever notes we want in this solo, we're gonna improvise and we're gonna make it sound cool and we're gonna look cool doing it.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point, because like it strikes me the violin, like, or Hamauzu's use of violin throughout 13 and then in many of his other soundtracks, it just strikes me as a very gypsy. It has that sort of that wild, like as he said, it's wild and like gypsy, like kind
fiddle
of
like
to it.
Yeah,
and like solo violin, that very very wild solos, like very like crazy virtuosic, like very high, up in the very high register. It's like, you know, that acts as a really good foil to he loves that eighth note ostinato in seconds. Like he uses that in the March of the Dreadnoughts. He uses that in so many, like, you know, in Fang's theme, I think, and I think in, like, there's some part, I think in Final Fantasy X, there are some, I want to say there were, I have to go to my notes, like which theme, like where he uses that ostinato, that, yeah, he uses it in, and the Night of the Goddess from 13 too, and then from Dance of the Dog's Howl from Sigma Harmonics, which is a OST that Ramon was like, this is so good, but you need to listen to. That's a Hamauzu.
I need to be educated. I need to be educated.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So, thank you, Ramon, for letting me know about that one.
But yeah, like it's it also goes into the main point that I want to make is how it's a very free-spirited line in like a very rigid, tightly constructed like rhythmic space, which sort of goes into what I was mentioning about the music being self-aware. The music, like through the through the rhythms and like percussion used, it's very reminiscent. It's very repetitive. It just gives this vibe of like being a very linear vibe. It's basically doing a lot of the same things over and over again. It's like going like up, just going up scales. It's just going up and down in half steps. It's just, and it's also like literally just instruments playing scales, like the cellos earlier and the synth line earlier. These very linear lines, which gives the impression of the game being like, at this point, it's just being you walking linearly through hallways. But then you have this very free-spirited line, which is supposed to mimic like the player characters, and in some regards also the player. Like you want to get through all these linear progressions. You want to break free of like all these how many times can I say linear in the same sentence?
No, I hear you. That's a great observation.
Yeah, well, it's basically self-insert player being like, man, we want to break through this linear system, and yeah, linearity. Which sort of implies, like, I heard some theories on 13 how the linear gameplay is supposed to be intentional in order to like get the player to feel like how these characters are trapped in the world, trapped in this situation, and they're just forced to go along with all this stuff. And that's why I feel like, the music tells the same sort of story, with having the linear elements and then more of the free-spirited elements.
That's a good way of looking at it, and yeah, it's interesting, like how you like characterize certain parts of this to reflect the characters in the game and the way the player feels, like the role of the player in the game, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. And I like what Stefan says here when he says even breaking free from the implied key. Yes, totally.
Who needs keys?
I really, yeah.
We asked. Wait, who did you say you asked Daniel what key it was in? That's why I said yes. It is in key. It isn't a key of every note on the piano. So let me repeat back to here. Also, a quick little like arrangement thingamabob. So if I just played exactly what the piano played, this arrangement would get really boring really fast. Like, it's just, the piano's very mechanical, it's very rhythmic, it's playing at the same velocity like the entire time. It's playing dunk 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 dunk. So I can't just play that because no one will be interested in it. So I tried to add in like little like crescendos and decrescendos to also give like that free-spirited nature, but just also to give it some more human phrasing and make it more interesting.
Yeah, no, you really did a great job with it. With the writing and the performance.
Like a crescendo here into the more chaotic part. That just repeating because the Final Fantasy XIII piano collections do that every once in a while, so like, why not just throw it in a repeat? Add in some dings, because who doesn't love high piano ding?
Yeah, that was a good touch.
Plus it just gives it a little more, at least to me, piano dings give it a little more like bell tone, a little more sparkle, a little more crystal-y. At least IMO.
No, it highlights that main climax really well, adding those high chords.
And then let's see. Then this section, we play like, we play this section, it's basically normal. Then it gets to this finale part, which
Nice.
David Russell likes to call this part the Kingdom Hearts, the concert paraphrase on Dearly Beloved Kingdom Hearts section.
That's Stefan is saying here, I hear Dearly Beloved here so much. I mean, that was before that part even came in.
Gosh, I feel like I'm crippled just by the fact I played concert paraphrase on Dearly Beloved once, and now whenever I want to throw in something fancy in a piece, I just go.
I mean, it's a very useful, like, you know, bag of tricks to have. The concert paraphrase, Dearly Beloved.
Like, what else am I gonna do? What else am I gonna do? Play a scale? Something actually technical? Nah, let's just play arpeggios.
Arpeggios are technical?
Let's see. So I wanted to do this also just to give it like this sort of like heroic sense. Like instead of doing like the scale, you have like the left hand like hitting out these huge chords like the bum bum bum. Bum. It's not Undertale, I swear. Bum, 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 bum.
Out of context, that was sounding like Undertale.
And then having the very like flourishing right hand. It's like sort of like John Williams sort of like flourishing strings going woo woo. And let's see. Also, with some of the notes within the arpeggios, I sort of like wanted to highlight like the important notes of each chord. Like let's see. Let's see if I can remember what chords I played here. Like for this one, I think it's the first chord. Like I played like it's like an F major minor 7th chord. So you have like I know arpeggio I played like E flat, B flat, E flat because so those are the 3rd and the 7th of the F minor 7th chord, which every jazz pianist will tell you. If you want something sounding jazzy, just play the 3rd and the 7th. You'll be fine. And that's the first thing I learned as a jazz pianist, actually. When I first joined jazz band, my teacher, the same teacher who introduced us to Miles Davis and whatnot, I'm like, so how do I comp? He's like, well, Dave, if you just press the 3rd and the 7th most times, you'll be fine.
I will remember that. It's like I've never done it that way.
And so you have the 3rd and the 7th because they're very important notes. They're basically. They're part of what define a chord. Like if you just have like F and C, it could be anything. But if you have F and wait, B flat isn't the 3rd of F. What am I on?
Hey.
What am I? Anyways. And then that transitions into having the E flat transitions to the D, which is the 3rd of B flat, which this chord is like F over B flat over F, so you have that 3rd in there to add the presence to the chord. I probably don't have time to go into every single note I play. It's a lot of adding like 3rds and 7ths in order to like highlight.
No, you do get a sense, like as Rob is saying, you definitely get a sense of F as tonic here, yes, and you did a great job at establishing that.
Which actually, the end of the piece ends on F. It does end on F.
Great ending. Yeah, I love that little ditty you did like at the end. It's great.
The little ditty at the end. So
yeah.
The piece doesn't have an ending, so I was like, what do I throw in as an ending? What are the elements that we have put together here? We have lots of modal mixture, we have lots of wonky chords, we have lots of very quick, tight, precise piano lines. So might as well just throw those all together in one fell swoop and have like this arpeggio right here.
That's really cool. What is that? What is
notes,
that little...
what notes were those? Let me see. I think that was just a C major chord over a D flat major chord.
Oh,
which
nice.
Which is basically like D major 7 sharp 9 sharp 11.
I mean, so you basically took the prevailing 2 chords and just mashed them together into one thing, and
yeah, basically, because it's like
C and D flat and minor 7th and just with it. That totally works. It really does, and then end on F. That's great. It's great because the whole piece just never lands on F until the very end. It just implies F with all the C dominant stuff.
Yeah, with all the C dominant thingies.
Yeah.
and then just going up by fourths because why not? And then that chord at the end is the it's basically like a C dominant 7th chord over F, which, you know, makes sense in the context of F because you have B flat in F, E major is in F. Plus, it's just like the chord you've been used to throughout the entire piece because you've heard the bum 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 bum. That's sort of the same chord, sort of, kind of, a little bit in a way. It's like a chord it's a chord sound that you're familiar with, so might as well end it on that, and just.
Yeah, no, it worked really well. You did like I said, you did a tremendous job on this. Like, you know.
And that is the piece. So yeah. Anyways, let's just give a quick overview. Endings are supposed to be. Anyway, so the quick overview.
Oh my gosh, Mike. Okay, Mike is being silly.
So anyway, yeah, basically,
okay, go ahead.
Basically what I wanted to say is like the piece in general just highlights a lot of what makes Hamauzu very just shine in his writing style. He adds in so many different textures and so many different harmonies that sometimes you feel like they shouldn't work on paper, but they do work out because he just does it right. He just does it right. And the most of the piece is centered around this, like, sort of, there's two different clashes. There's a clash of modes, which is like supposed to represent, like, well, I mean, not supposed to, but like, in my opinion, represents how we have the clashing fates of the characters that are coming together to have to get through this game, plow through this game, which I have not. I haven't touched Final Fantasy XIII in a while. I should get back into it.
It's fine. There are a lot.
I'm gonna forget all my freaking. I'm gonna forget all my freaking paradigms and be like, what am I doing?
This thing with Fang, Lightning, and Hope, and you're fine. That's like the power trio. But you won't get them until like much later. So.
No, I did get Fang. I got to. Where did I get to? I got to. I remember. Oh yeah, I was on the airship right before we meet the Pope, the evil Pope.
Oh my gosh, you're like actually pretty far. So all you just need is Commando, Ravager, and you know whatever like Synergist, and you're fine.
Yeah, let's go triple Ravagers. That's my vibe.
No. Okay,
absolute chaos.
That's actually pretty good in some situations.
But yeah, so anyway, so like I said, the clashing of fates. We have that in a mode mixture. Plus we have the clashing of the linearity of the structure of the piece versus like the more human elements with like the violin solo and like the clashing of harmonies that shouldn't technically work, and how just I wanted to especially even in a piece with like so many like electronic instruments and so many different textures like this, I wanted to especially highlight those aspects in the piano arrangement in order to best highlight what the piece is trying to convey, at least in my opinion. And that is how I put together this piece, totally not by just trial and error and a bunch of late nights being like, let me get this piece done for the contest.
Well, you did such a fantastic job, really. In a short amount of time, like this is 2 weeks, like from conception to execution.
Oh gosh, I'm not the only. I'm not the only one who did that. For all of y'all in the chat that haven't subscribed or followed Purpleschala yet, she also did a cover for this. She did Collapse Expressway from Final Fantasy XIII.
That was over a period of 4 months, okay, and that just happened to come along.
But gosh, does it sound so freaking good? It's like,
oh, you're too kind.
You thought this sounded Piano Collection Z? Well, you gotta listen to her entry. I almost said entree. I mean, it is an entree. It's so tasty. It's such a tasty arrangement. It's just so many moving parts in your arrangement that just works super well. So if you haven't followed her already, for YouTube people, there should be a link in the description, and for Twitch people,
it's okay.
Just follow her. Yes, her name is in the Twitch title. Look it up. You will be the first result.
Okay, I'm not on Twitch, but that's okay. Well, thanks for having me on, Dave. This was really fun.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining in. For everyone of y'all in the chat, also, I do just like every single week, basically, for every arrangement I put up on YouTube. So make sure if you're on Twitch, hit that follow button. It is absolutely free. For y'all on YouTube, either, I don't know, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell if you feel it. It's also absolutely free. Literally, it'll take 2 seconds and you'll be done with it. It'll be great. And yeah, we'll hopefully catch y'all next week for another Dissects. Not sure what I want to do for that yet, because I got a couple ideas, but we'll figure it out. And if y'all want to see more guests aboard the Dissects, definitely hit me up on YouTube comments or Twitter or whatever, and beg people to join my Dissects. I want to have more friends on board, because Purpleschala was freaking carrying half of this presentation, and you love to see it.
Danny propping me up, music on the D-Lo, propping me up the 2 nights before, with correcting me on my minor mixolydian half-baked ideas.
Minor mixolydian. I sleep on minor mixolydian. I am woke on whole tone mixolydian. Augmented mixolydian. Now these are theory areas that we will create from the depths of our nonsense. But yeah, I'll catch.
Oh, it's so great, so cool to see everyone in the chat. So thanks for coming out and joining us. That was really fun.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I will catch you guys next week, and until then, take care. I hope I'm not forgetting to say